The final stage took place at a small stone bridge crossing Antietam Creek. Union forces needed to cross the bridge to attack Lee's right flank, but Confederate troops held the high ground above it. For hours, Union soldiers attempted to charge across the bridge under heavy fire. Again and again they were driven back. Finally, in the afternoon, Union troops managed to break through. For a moment, it looked like Lee's army might collapse. But at the last possible moment, Confederate reinforcements arrived after a forced march from Harper's Ferry. They slammed into the Union advance and stopped it cold. As the sun set on September 17th, the battlefield fell silent. The cost was almost unimaginable. More than 23,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing in just one day. It remains the bloodiest day in American history. Technically, the battle was a draw. Lee's army had not been destroyed, but he had failed to achieve his goal of winning a decisive victory on Northern soil. The next night, he withdrew back across the Potomac River into Virginia. And that was enough, because President Abraham Lincoln had been waiting for exactly this moment. For months, Lincoln had been considering one of the most controversial decisions in American history. He wanted to issue a proclamation declaring freedom for enslaved people in Confederate territories. But he knew the timing had to be right. Issuing such a proclamation after a major Union defeat could look desperate. But after Antietam, Lincoln finally had the opportunity he needed. 5 days later, on September 22, 1862, he announced the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. It declared that beginning January 1, 1863, all enslaved people in Confederate-controlled territory would be free. The war was no longer just about preserving the Union. Now it was also about ending slavery. And that changed everything. European nations that had abolished slavery decades earlier could no longer easily support the Confederacy. International opinion shifted dramatically. Meanwhile, thousands of formerly enslaved men would soon join the Union Army, strengthening its forces. And the strange discovery of a lost document wrapped around 3 cigars had helped make it possible. History is often shaped by great leaders and powerful armies. But sometimes it turns on something much smaller. A forgotten envelope, a few cigars, and a soldier who simply happened to notice them in the grass. Yet the mysteries surrounding that discovery still remain. Who lost the document? Was it carelessness, bad luck, or something stranger? And what might have happened if Barton Mitchell had walked just a few steps further down the road without ever seeing it? Would Lee have won his invasion? Would Europe have recognized the Confederacy? Would the United States look completely different today? History rarely gives clear answers. But sometimes, buried inside its pages, we find stories so unbelievable they feel almost impossible. And this was only the beginning. Because the Civil War was filled with secrets, hidden operations, and forgotten figures whose actions shaped the future of the United States in ways most people have never heard. One of those stories would begin just months later, with a spy ring hidden in plain sight inside Washington, D.C. and forth across the cornfield for hours. At one point, the corn stalks were said to have been cut down as if a giant scythe had passed through them. Next, the battle moved to a narrow farm lane that would later become known as Bloody Lane. Confederate soldiers had taken position in a sunken road, creating a natural trench. Union troops attacked again and again. For hours, the road became a slaughterhouse. Bodies piled up so high that soldiers reportedly used them as defensive walls. By midday, the road was filled with fallen men. Nearly 5,000 soldiers were killed or wounded there alone. But the battle wasn't over.